Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. It's Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. I hope your week is going great. We're halfway through, almost to the weekend. I know I'm in recovery mode after spending 5 days with the grandkids. Now that they're at that school age, kindergarten, pre-K, all they're doing this time of year is coughing, hacking, runny noses. I had to come home and start hammering all the vitamins, the echinacea, zinc, whatever it took, whatever I can to build up the immune system. But it was definitely a good time. It was nice to get away, and it was nice to see them. It's turning cold here in Connecticut. I knew that warm weather wasn't going to last. It was nice reporting every week how nice and warm it was here, but yeah, now it's turning cold. Got the heat on for the first time here, so not bad for November 13th, right? Just turning the heat on, but it was nice while it lasted. As you can see, I have Arrowhead Stadium behind me. That means my Chiefs are still undefeated. Let's go. Let's go. Before I jumped in here, I was going through my fantasy rosters, and I can't believe we're already at week 11. Right? Seems like it went by so fast. Just a few more weeks, we're going to be in the fantasy playoffs. It's just crazy. I mean, I just felt like I was just saying, "Oh, it's a long week, and we're just getting started." And now we're past the halfway. We're almost at the end. Or I should say, we're at the fantasy playoffs if you did well, right? For me, out of 8 teams, it looks like 5 guarantee playoffs. 1 is questionable, and I think 2 I'm out on. I have options to get in, but even if I got in, those 2 teams are just decimated with injuries. And these are players that just are not coming back, or they've come back and they're not playing that well. And even if they did, I mean, if I could get in, maybe I could make a run, but I doubt it. I've been doing this long enough to know, when to raise the flag on some of these teams. I came home here, came back to a ton of packages, eBay, whatnot, Marketplace. I know the mail lady thinks I have a problem, but I think this happens to most of us card people when we go away. Daily, it doesn't seem too bad. Oh, 1 package here, 1 package there, 2 here. Not so bad, right? We just take them and open them. And, when you're gone for 5, 6 days a week, you come back to this big pile. For us, it's super exciting. For others watching, they definitely think we got a problem. But it's always super exciting to come back to a pile, especially when you've been away on vacation or you've been away doing something fun, and then you come back to even more fun. Can't beat that. I started to put an order together for PSA and SGC. I'm still waiting on at least half my whatnot orders. It's just unbelievable how long it takes to ship some stuff. So I haven't done anything on whatnot for more than a week, and more than half the packages are still. I just got a notification like a half an hour ago. Oh, your package is shipping. It was one of the first ones I got into like over 2 weeks ago. So I don't know if this is a common problem on there, because I usually don't. I've been on there and I never really was waiting anxiously, especially when I'm putting these PSA orders together. I'm waiting. There's, for some of those to come in, because I don't even know if they're gradable cards, right? I got to take them. I got to look at them and see, what could gem them and what's worth sending in. So I'm anxiously waiting for those to show up, because I'm hoping to ship my orders out. Timing wise, I probably need to get an order in the mail, especially to PSA. I mean, SGC they're quick 5, 8 days, but PSA, I need to get an order, at least by Monday. I need to mail it out by Monday in order for it to make sense for me to come back at the right time to be able to sell some of those cards. But that's kind of leading us into today's episode, hobby forecasting, right? Putting together, for me, my hobby plan. What it's going to look like for the next year. What does your hobby plan look like for the next year? Have you started thinking about it yet? This time of year, this is the time of year I take a good look at the market. I look to see what worked for me last year, what worked for me the year before. I've got tons of notes. And even if I didn't have those notes, I can go back on my episodes. I can go back and I can read, see what each one is titled, and it brings me right back. I remember what was in each episode. So, I have kind of a hobby diary, if you will, that I can go back and look, see what worked, what didn't work. And for me, the last 2 years were pretty easy. They were, rinse and repeat. Buying mostly, quarterback rookies, PSA 10s, stockpiling them, firm hands, not selling them until at least June, right? And then 2 years, 3 years ago and 2 years ago, taking a bulk of those to the National, right? Last year I lost my space in the National, so it was, selling them, at other shows anywhere I could. Last year I did a bunch of grading as well, more than I did in the previous years. That was new to me, all the grading I did last year. And I probably shouldn't say that's new to me, all the grading, but I want to say grading well, right? Knowing what to grade, being able to define, even if a card looks like it will gem, is it worth sending out and getting it graded? So in years past, I'd be like, oh, wow, this is a great card. I'm going to, look at it with the best I could, wipe it down, put it in, and send it out. Now I've got a little station with a huge magnifying glass, and good lighting. I can see at every different angle. So, my grade should be better, right? I mean, you can do everything you can, and it's not going to guarantee anything, but my grades should be better. And this past year, I've graded well. The even cards that I said, it may not gem. It looks like a solid 9. Let me see what that's selling for. Is it worth it for me to send that? And if it comes back, and that's kind of every card I look at now. I used to look at it and say, wow, that looks great. It could 10, and this is what it would be worth, right? Now I'm like, what's worst case scenario? What happens if it comes back a 9? Was it still worth it? Because if it's not still worth it as a 9, I'm probably not going to send it. It's probably easier for me and quicker to sell it raw and let somebody else say, hey, I can improve on this card. Maybe I can gem this card, right? Where I can only do so much in preparing a card. I know there's a lot of people out there that can take dents and scratches and putting them in the humidors and everything else. I'm not going that far. I don't go that far with the cards. I'm more of your basic. I'm just going to clean it. I'm going to wipe it. I'm going to look at it. I want to, and fingerprints or anything on there, something stuck on there, I can wipe off that type of stuff, but beyond that, I'm more of a basic cleaner when it comes to getting a card graded or preparing it. Um, and last year, I was ripping a lot of product last year too. And I'm afraid to say this year is not going to be rinse and repeat. I feel there's been a noticeable shift in the hobby as we close this year out, as we get closer to the end of this year. I feel it. I feel it where I am here. I see it. I'm seeing it at the shows. And I've been talking to people in the hobby from other areas that are pretty much confirming the same thing, that what I feel and see, what's happening here is happening in most places. I'm gearing up for a big show. So I haven't set up at a big show in a while. Probably the last big show I set up was at Mohegan Sun, right? So this is a 2-day show coming up in 2 weeks at Mohegan Sun. And from what I hear and what I see, I think the play for the show and the play right now is singles boxes. I've been working the last few weeks, and I talked about this a few weeks ago, getting back to, you know, if you go all the way back to season one, I talked about the soup box, right? It was like everything that I couldn't grade, but looked halfway decent. A penny sleeve, I top loaded, I put it in a box. I called it the soup box. Everything was for sale, you know. And that mentality goes all the way back to, you know, when you make a soup, if you cook a chicken, right, and you could have a chicken dinner, and afterwards you take everything else and put it in the pot, to make the soup. And that was similar to how I viewed the cards. um, but yeah, so I've been working on putting these singles boxes together, preparing for that show. A basketball box, a football box. um, and from what the information I've been getting and from what I've been seeing, it seems like the $1 to $10 cards and the single boxes, that's what's selling best right now. That's what people are digging. That's what people are really going to the shows. That's what's, seems to be selling the most out there. Um, a good portion of the slabs that are being sold are slabs with recent comps in decent public sales, right? And the repackers are buying them up at 80 to 85%. These are the cars they want with decent public sales, things they can look right at and say, hey, we can see this card is consistently selling at this much. I want to buy it for this much. And that's their business, right? They've got somebody on the other hand that's going to buy it. And that's where they're making their profit. Bigger shows, the report there is people are trying to trade down out of bigger cards, try to trade into $200 to $500 cards. So in other words, trying to get maybe 110 or 120% trade value for their bigger card, right? And trading down into cards that have, again, recent comps and decent public sales, aka liquid cards, right? Cards that will easily be able to move, not trade down into more cards that they're not going to be able to move, cards that they know that they can guarantee that they're going to sell. So how does this information help me? Well, if I'm going to be buying slabs, right, it sounds like I need to be buying them at 60 to 65%. And we all know those deals are pretty much, few and far between. And the rookie QB in PSA 10s that I've been buying and holding the last 2 years, it just doesn't feel like the play anymore. 2 years ago, I was probably, at about 28%. I'm looking back at my notes. I was probably about an average 28% on those cards just to buy them at the current value that we're selling in December, January, February, and then just pulling those cards out in June, July, and August and selling those cards. I was probably overall about 28%. Last year was much less. Last year was more like 10%, maybe 12%. And I'm afraid this year could be even more of a loss if I try to do the same thing. Like I could almost be at break even or losing money, because I just feel these cards have really just become instant flip cards to most people, right? It's just flip, 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 flip. And as long as, and I talk to people that do this, they're like, hey, I'm really good at 10%. If I can do 10% on every single card, that's fine. But if I can't, if I start to feel the card, I may be stuck with a card or may not do well, I'm okay at 5%, 4%, whatever. As long as I can get something out of it and move on. That doesn't really give these cards a chance to go up in value, right? It keeps them close to where they are at their current prices, whether they're selling in January, February, or June, July. I feel that the value, the price of the comps of those cards are going to be the same. So even though they're liquid, there's just not enough profit for me to hold those cards for 6 months and then try to sell them. Losing my spot at the National last year, I know that really affected me too. Not having that place to sell those cards last year. I probably could have done better last year had I still had my table at the National. And I would probably be doing a lot of the same. And this conversation, this episode right now that that I'm having would be a little different because I probably would have been saying, "Hey, I was in the upper 20% at the national last year moving these cars. I'm going to do it again this year, rinse and repeat," right? But that I don't have that space, right? I'm not guaranteed any space there. So I have to do I have to base it on the knowledge that I have right now. Right now, I don't have space. I am on a waiting list, so if that changes, maybe my plan would change somewhat. But right now, I need to move forward and put a plan together of what I know, all the information I have right now. So what's the plan? I said I have the Mohegan Sun Show coming up, 2 weeks, singles boxes, and a case, probably a case, a slab case or one touches in a case. But it's the football that I have left, men's basketball, WNBA, and NCAA women's basketball. And besides the Don Russ, the Costco exclusive, that I, ripped out of there, I haven't added anything to my football inventory. I've been selling, been going to these shows. I've been selling, doing as much as I can to move these cards because I just kind of felt like the values of what I had, the football. I just felt like the values just keep sliding down and sliding down. So I just thought it was better off selling and then just sitting back, not buying more football to put in my case, but just sit back and say, "Hey, let me see where this is all going." I don't want to be stuck because I'm not doing as many shows right now. So I don't need to be stuck with cards sitting here in the office in my case that I really don't have a chance to sell or move. If I had a number of shows coming up, some big shows or back to back, I would consider adding some slabs that if I could get into them at a decent price, but right now I'm not, so I don't need to be jumping into that right now. Uh, Last year I started late with the NCAA women's basketball. I think it was like February when I really just started opening up those Bowman Chrome U boxes, started ripping and selling those cards. So this year I started much earlier, and similar to what I did the last 2 years with football. I did that this year with those basketball cards. Started to buy those in June, July, August. Um, Looking forward to this time and a little further on, now that the season had just started. And I know I get a lot of mixed comments. People warning me, "Oh, I don't know why you're wasting your money. You're going to lose your money. Stay away from that." Caitlin Clark was the only thing. Now that she's not there, your Paige Beckers, your Juju Watkins, no, you're gonna get. And then I got people on the other hand telling me, "Hey, I am so thankful you brought all this stuff to my attention. I was buying these cards in the summer. I've been doubling up on all the cards that I bought or making a very good profit of it. Appreciate your information. It's really worked out for me." And I'm probably at that point now with those cards that I bought that I'm at a double up right now. So it's okay if I want to start selling off some of those cards, testing the market, putting some of these cards out, even at Mohegan Sun or any show. I don't have anything booked in December right now. If something comes up, I could certainly put that out. But if not, January, February and I'm not focused. Another thing too is I'm not focused just on Paige Beckers or just on Juju Watkins. I have the top five. I have inventory in the top five, right? ESPN's top five, you know, women's basketball, college basketball players right now. So I've diversified well in that. So I'm very excited for that season to come up. Plus, I still have another 30 or 40 uh, of those cards they're going off to PSA for grading. So those cards are going to have to, they'll probably be the January cards, right? But they're cards that, it's hand picking, right? Going through search, going through on marketplace and here and there and finding one card here and one card there. And it's been fun doing that. And even more exciting when you get the card and say, "Yeah, I can send this off for grading." It definitely makes all that effort, it feels like all that effort gets paid off. Uh, and this is definitely gonna be a nice lane for me over the next 3 or 4 months. I know it is. I know there was a lot of, you know, a lot of people, even when the WNBA Select was coming out, a lot of people were like, "No, that's." I know when the Origins came out, it felt like they were only out for 5 minutes, right? It was like the Origins, and I know that's the lowest of the Panini stuff, but it was like the Origins came out, and then, like, 2 weeks later, the Select WNBA came out, and the Origins fell off, but the Select WNBA has been super hot with all this breaking and buying, and the cards themselves, like, if you go online, you can really handpick if you wanted to find. I mean, besides Caitlin Clark, obviously, her cards are more expensive, but if you're a fan of the game and there's a player in there or any of these other rookies that you like, these cards are reasonably priced, to get in. And I know the breakers, I mean, a lot of the breakers that were breaking up this, breaking this product, it dried up quickly. Uh and they were with you hear them saying, "I don't have any more. I wish I had more. I'm trying to get more." And I think it was very lucrative for them to, especially on Whatnot. I know it was very lucrative. I'm doing the calculations at seeing what things are selling for, and I know it was very lucrative for them. So I think what's going to happen is the hype is there, and when Prism hits now, and I think they're saying December now for the Prism, but I think it might even be January, but they are saying December. When the Prism hits, I think that hype is gonna be even higher. I think people are gonna even buy a lot of these breakers even buy more cases, because of course people like Prism more than Select. So, uh, I think the market is there, and I think there's enough people that are buying in that really wanna get into this, and I know on the other hand, there's people buying in that don't know what they're doing, right? That this they're new to this too, and I think the Whatnot people are enjoying that as well, especially because 'cause I've talked to people and they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I got in, and I went into Whatnot, and I set the whole thing up, and, I bought these things, and I've seen what they're bought," and I'm like, "Ooh," I'm like, I think you spent too much, you know? I think you should, started educating. This is how you can find prices. This is what you can look. So these are people that are fan of the game, but maybe not of the hobby, right? And overspending on things, and trying to help them, educate them a little more on, a better way of buying and not just, you know, hitting auctions on Whatnot. So, but I think that Prism is gonna climb even higher, and I think there's gonna be even more, hype over that. As far as football, I'm not gonna lie, I know I'm gonna rip. I know I'm gonna rip, especially Prism. It's like I have to do it every year. It's like I can't not do it. I love the blasters. I love the hangers. I'm not a big fan of the hobby boxes with Prism. Just too much risk in that. Maybe some mega boxes if I can find them on a shelf somewhere, but definitely not aftermarket. And I think that's another reason I like Prism too, is I can walk into my local Target or my local Walmart and find them on shelves. Not a lot, but when they are out, last year I did well going to Targets and finding them on the shelves and not have to pay, the aftermarket fees, if you will. But it's another reason I like it. I could walk in and find 5 blaster boxes and go home and rip them and just have a fun afternoon with that. Um, but I'll spend late winter, early spring months acquiring singles and ripping some stuff and just grading those cards. That will be my football. That will be my fill when June, July, August, those sales. That anything that I'm getting now. So the last few years I spent buying these graded PSA 10. Now I'm going to invest some money into, singles and ripping some stuff and just grading the stuff myself and kind of go at it at, go for a more maximum profit on that versus hoping for that 10 to 12% on something that I'm holding for 6 months. I also purchased 2 huge lots. I talked about these in my episodes. I purchased a non-sport. They were all the complete sets, close to 90 sets. Um, I've only moved one set out of that, was the Star Wars set. So what I've been doing as a side project when I have any downtime, I've been separating them. So a lot of the sets, there were multiple sets in these big single binders, right? So I purchased a bunch of binders, a couple cases of binders. So what I've been doing is taking them and separating each set. So each set is alone in its own binder. Then I'll start labeling them. And I think the early part of 2025, probably by, January, February, this is going to be kind of a lane. I'm going to start selling these non-sport sets. I also bought a WNBA collection. Talked about that too. A lot of those cards were pack pulled, top loaded. So I sent off a huge order to PSA and SGC. And like the non-sport sets and the WNBA, the only downfall is I don't think these are things that are going to sell easily at shows. It, it, it's like the binders. I would have to get a separate table, right, to put binders there to let people go look through these binders. And the WNBA, it's like, is the real estate worth it? Is there enough people coming in to buy that stuff? So I think both the non-sport binders, all those sets, and the WNBA, I think they're going to be more eBay and online auction type sales, right? And I think both of those would probably sell really well at the National, because these are, more stuff that people would be looking for. They come to find these harder to find things, right? But I'll do my best. I mean, it's going to keep me busy. I know it is. And it's money just sitting there, right? All I have to do is figure out how to turn the cards into cash, or the binders into cash, right? What's the best way to do that? What's the best way to move these things? That's, that's something I'll need to figure out myself. And of course, I'm still going to be on my Chasing Goats tour, finding those bigger cards just to add to my PC. Those are, the few and far between cards. If you find a deal like I found on the cards that I have, I'm happy to have them, and I keep looking. I feel like I haven't seen much out there, but I think people are like me. If they have these cards, they're putting them aside. They don't want to put them out right now, because they know that the values are down with them right down. They don't want to take a loss on them. But if I find them, definitely going to make plays for them. Are you feeling the shift in the hobby? What's happening where you are? Are the singles boxes getting a lot more attention than the cases? Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me what's going on where you are. What does your plan look like for next year? Do you put a plan together? Right? I just think it's important that, this time of year, this is the slower time, right, between now and the end of the year in the hobby. I feel it's the slowest time. And January, it's, you want to get out there and hit the ground running, right? And the best way to do that for me, right, is put a plan together now and be prepared, be ready to go. Do you do that? If you do, what time of year do you put your plan together? Is it now? Is it a different time of year? Tell me what you think. Sunday, I'll be set up at the local New Britain show here in Connecticut. If you're out and about, if you're in the area, stop by, say hello. And then I'm home in the afternoon for the big game. I'm a Chiefs fan, so Chiefs Bills. I'm looking forward to that game on Sunday. When these two teams get together, they never disappoint. They're always great games. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I will see you, either Sunday or Monday for a brand new episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.